Hello everyone. I am Ananya and I have with me Saurabh and we are going to be your host for today's episode. We have with us an alumni who took this exciting path and we are honored to know how he did it and what challenges he faced along with it. Please welcome Mr. Anish Basu Roy. He is a SCMHRD alumnus and is the founder and CEO TagZ Foods. He has recently cracked a deal at Shark Tank. With years of expertise in entrepreneurship, we have a lot to learn from him today. So grab onto your earphones and be ready. Hello, Anish sir, and welcome to our podcast.
So, sir, we have a few questions curated from our batch, as many of them were curious to know about your journey. So, starting with the first question.
Sure.
So, every brand has a story behind its creation, and every founder has a let's do it movement. So, where he resolves to start the business and takes the first step in that direction. So, what was your let's do it moment?
First of all, Saurabh, thanks so much for having me on this podcast. It means a lot. I've been away from campus for many years now, but I think the 2 years that I spent there definitely have stayed back with me, and happy to be speaking to people who are possibly part of that journey now,
Yes.
which I did almost some 16 or 17 years back. Uh, yeah. Let's do it moment. I like the way you guys have kind of given it a fancy dimension. Uh, but allow me to put it this way, I've kind of done it twice now. So I'm not very sure if, there was ever a let's do it moment. Not very sure if you guys are aware, but TagZ is my second venture.
Yes.
And I quit my corporate job back in December 2012. And maybe that time around, I did have a little bit of a, the whole let's do it kind of a phenomena. I was at a very interesting juncture in my professional career. I was back then heading the enterprise sales business for Nokia in India, and I'd done that for almost 2 years. I was supposed to move on to my next stint, which would have possibly taken me to a role within Nokia based out of Dubai. And while the role was damn exciting, and to be honest, the money on offer was also damn exciting. But I still remember I was 30 back then. And what struck me very, very clearly is the fact that if I chose to take, that next jump in my corporate career, I would possibly stuck to a corporate career for the rest of my life. And hence a decision needed to be made because somewhere there was always this deep desire lurking in the background to do something on my own. So yeah, well, yes, at that point in time, possibly my let's do it moment was prompted by the fact that I needed to decide between my next role in a corporate career versus starting up, right? And I chose to start up. The second time around, the TagZ, to be very honest, there was never really a let's do it kind of a moment, simply because TagZ happened after almost 18 months of intense research, right? It was a very rational, a very thought through, a very planned move. And hence, allow me to be honest, but then, with TagZ, there was never a let's do it moment. It was very methodical, very research based, very plan based approach with which we decided to, go ahead with this journey of crafting a premium snack brand with a focus on product innovation and taste and better for you qualities as a product.
Right, sir. Sir, at what stage did you know that it has reached a product market fit?
I'm glad students in B school are nowadays talking about product market fit. In fact, that's very heartening that you guys today speak in this language, because I remember back in my day, the most sought after jobs were typically the investment banking jobs or the consulting assignments, and none of us knew anything about product market fit. Uh, I'm sure we've already reached a stage where a bunch of you and maybe the sharpest minds in college today don't even want to work for somebody else, right? Maybe the sharpest kids in the batch today want to start up on their own. And in that context, I think it only makes sense that you guys are already thinking and talking about product market fit. So that's damn exciting. How did we know that the product had reached product market fit? In fact, happy to share a small white paper that I wrote about this as well. And the white paper was very interestingly titled, 7.5 metrics that we used to evaluate whether TagZ had reached product market fit or not. It's up on my LinkedIn. Feel free to kind of go through that. That'll give you a deep down hands-on look at what kind of metrics to usually measure. right? But at a very overarching level, allow me to very quickly speak about how can you measure product market fit. In my view, number one, what is most important for any product to measure is the rate of adoption. Okay, so regardless of whether you're making a consumer product, whether you're making a tech product, I think what is very important is that what is the degree of ease with which users are adopting your product. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I think what is very important to measure is that how often is the consumer engaging with your product or repeating your product, right? So in case of food products, I think the repeat rates matter a lot. But for example, if any of you are thinking about doing a tech product, then possibly what measures a lot is the engagement rate. How often is the user using your product, your app, or your interface or whatever. Number three, what is extremely important at the product market fit is to evaluate whether the adoption and the repeat is happening in absence of a marketing input or in presence of a marketing input. I believe true modern product fit can be ascertained only if there is good adoption of your product with healthy product rates in absence of a marketing input, right? Lastly, I think what is very important for everyone to realize is that at what kind of unit economics, okay, is your product getting adopted, repeated, uh, and if marketing has played a role in that. So unit economics is very important. So there's no point launching a product in the market which is ridiculously cheap, and you launch it at a very low price, and consumers start adopting your product, and you get excited by the fact that consumers are using your products, right, or repeating your product. The fact is they're using it possibly because it's very cheap. Maybe at that kind of a price, your unit economics don't work. So these four aspects, in my view, are very critical. We, kind of alpha tested and beta tested our products in various stores, right? So typically, what we did is we identified multiple stores in Bangalore, and we targeted about 100 odd stores where we just placed our products. We observed whether consumers were buying our products without any marketing input at all or not. We started measuring how much were the consumers repeating, what percentage of the customers were coming back to buy our chips again, and all of this we did in absence of any kind of a marketing input. And we did this at the price at which we intended to launch the product. Okay, in fact, I think the pricing was slightly higher. So I still remember we launched with a 50 rupee pack, which was like a 30-gram pack. Okay, today what we sell is basically 40 grams at about 50 rupees and a larger pack size and stuff like that. But even with a costlier proposition, our product was getting adopted, and hence we knew that the product had found a product market fit. The same stores were buying more quantities, right, of the same products. So those are some of the interesting ways that you possibly ensure and establish that your product has found market fit.
Right, sir. So we'll
I hope
definitely.
I hope that was not a very technical answer, and I tried to make it as easily understandable as possible.
Yes, sir, that definitely was. And thank you. We'll definitely have a read about the 7.5 metrics on your LinkedIn, and we'll also share it with the marketing enthusiasts as well. So, sir, moving on, as you say that you are more comfortable in calling TagZ as a small business rather than a startup. So, can you share an incident that you fondly remember while TagZ was just in its infancy phase or during the start of your journey with TagZ?
Oh, there are just too many of them. I think it's very difficult to narrate one, but I'll tell you, a few. Okay, so before I go on to narrate a few incidents, I think allow me to clarify on what I mean as the difference between a small business and a startup. Okay, I started my first venture back in 2013, and in 2013, startup was not even a fashionable term, right? Flipkart had just about started scaling up. Not sure if you guys would remember. So at that point in time, startups was unheard of, right? Today we've reached a stage where almost every day you possibly open a newspaper. Where nobody opens newspapers these days. Everybody kind of reads newspapers on their phone or laptop. You read about so many companies that are raising capital, right? Uh, so many companies are growing so fast. Okay, I think somewhere in the last 10 years, what has also happened is that startups have become synonymous with just raising capital, growth at any cost, right, and rising valuations. More often than not, we don't even know what kind of revenues these fast growing startups are clocking, right? Not very sure if you guys are aware, but I think there are now 40, 49 or 50 odd unicorns in the country. And I was just counting the other day, while TagZ is still a very, very small business, our revenue possibly is much higher than at least 6 or 7 of those unicorns, technically, right? And in my view, the true metric on which a business should be measured is revenues, right? Is bottom line, is top line at the end of the day, not valuations. So the reason I prefer calling ourselves a small business is because that is one way of reminding ourselves every day that we are not chasing valuations necessarily. Okay, we are not just chasing mindless growth. We are focused on making sure that we do what is the right thing for business, which is driving top line as well as bottom line at all points in time, right? And hence, we don't call ourselves a startup as much. Okay. Coming back to the interesting incidents, I think the most interesting phase for us was we had just launched our product, around February of 2020. And the lockdown, COVID happened and the first lockdown hit and virtually everything came to a standstill. I still remember, I think we were a very, very small team back then. Typically we would have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? And, none of our distributors were working back then. And retailers wanted our products. They were ordering a lot, so typically me and my team would take both my cars out and both my cars would be used for delivering to retailers, right? We would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we would deliver the products to retailers and we had to come back because there was a curfew after 9 o'clock, right? I still remember a small team of about 3-4 people unloaded a full truck full of about 470 cartons, which had shipped from our factory to our warehouse. Because there was no labor available, right? And we had to do it ourselves. So I think those were some of the interesting moments, the most memorable moments, in this long journey that we've embarked on.
Right, sir. That was really an interesting piece of.
In fact, I still remember that 470 carton truck which came into the lane of our warehouse. That was the first day we realized that a large truck could not actually come into the lane, because that particular lane had wires, the Wi-Fi wires and electricity wires of all other warehouses in that area at a low height. So when our truck had to come in, it would have potentially destroyed all the wires. So one of the team members actually climbed onto the truck, on top of the truck, on the roof of the truck, lifted all the wires, okay, and let the truck pass through. So a little bit of a Tarzan moment, let me put it this way, to unload inventory.
Right, sir. That was quite an interesting piece of a story that you shared. So, sir, coming back to your TagZ products. So, apart from air pop chips and dips, so do you have any plans on diversifying the products and exploring other snacking options?
Yes, of course.
How would you go about creating a supply chain for the product so that they are easily available for consumption?
So yes, as a business, we are definitely not a pop chips company. Okay. So while we have already launched our pop chips and dips already, in fact, we've already started accepting pre-orders for our chocolate cigars as well. So the 4 categories that TagZ is going to be disrupting, in times to come and in this year, we basically focused on 4 categories, which are basically chips, dips, chocolates, and cookies. And in the chip segment, we do pop chips, but then our pop chips have 2 distinct segments. One is the classic Indian flavors, such as masala, cream, onion, and salt. The other range of our pop chips is basically our bar snacking flavors, right? Which is beer and barbecue, Italian wine and cheese, Thai vodka, tom yum, which plugs into the whole gap in the market for bar snacks, right? I'm sure everybody here on the call is above drinking age, and hence we can have a grown-up conversation around this. If you see the alcobev options today in the country, right, there's been a lot of premiumization. So compared to 10 years ago, when we would only have Kingfisher and a few other options, right? Today there are a lot of premium beer options, there are a lot of premium gin options, a lot of premium vodka options. But then bar snacking is still somewhere stuck in the chakna era, right? So we're trying to offer consumers a premium bar snacking experience as well. And in that context, we've launched our dips as well, right? So we only do international gourmet flavors, such as pepper jack and garlic aioli. And these are flavors that typically most other dip manufacturers in India do not do. As I mentioned, we've just launched our dark chocolate cigars. These are very finely crafted chocolate cigars made from dark chocolate, made from cocoa sauce from Ghana. We'll typically be selling this in handcrafted wooden boxes, just the way a cigar is potentially sold, right? We will do a lot of other interesting products with chocolates as well. So the four categories that you will see coming out from the house of TagZ is basically chips, dips, chocolates, and cookies, and all of that is happening this year itself.
Right, so we are pretty sure that all these upcoming products would do well too in the market. So the next question is, you're in an industry which is dominated by prominent brands like Lay's, Haldiram's, Bringo, Pringles, Too Yum, and many more local players as well. It must have been a very difficult journey to create a market presence of your brand tag. Can you please share the challenges that you faced? What would be your advice to entrepreneurs who face similar challenges as you faced?
So let me kind of do away with a misconception. Okay, it is not necessary that you have to start a business in a white space. Okay, it is not necessary that you have to create a market. Okay, it is not necessary that your product idea needs to be completely different from anything and everybody else, right? I think it makes equal amount of sense to enter a mature market if you have a adequately differentiated product, right? And I'm sure by now all of you guys have studied, in your marketing classes about product differentiation. It's very important, and of course we are playing in a crowded market. We fully realize that. Okay. However, allow me to state how we are differentiating ourselves, right? So, for example, we are not competing with your Lay's or Haldiram or 2M or any of these other products, because all these brands and all these products are typically focused on catering to a mass market, right? These are all brands which are typically selling at your 10 rupee, 20 rupee kind of price points. And these are products which are not just unhealthy, they're all mass produced. There's very little differentiation between the two. We are very clearly focused on the top of the market, right? And in the chips segment, if you look at it, except for Pringles, there is no other brand, which is a truly premium brand. And that's the kind of space that we want to play in. If you look at the dips space, okay, of course, dips and sauces, you have a lot of brands which are doing sauces, but then there's nobody who's really doing a range of premium gourmet, dips. Even in the chocolate segment, we are not competing with a Amul or a Mondelez or Cadbury's, right? We are basically operating in a segment which is today, led by brands like Ferrero Rocher or Lindt or Faber, right? So there are limited choices at the top of the pyramid if you look at it. So what we've identified is that the top 30-40 million households in the country, okay, and all the students in a college like ours come from some of these households, and I'm sure you guys will realize and agree that for households which are the top 30-40 million households in the country today, all the snacking options are very massy. They're all cheap, they're all unhealthy, right? Most of them, and we all realize. We also realize that all these brands are old brands, they're all legacy brands. Now Pringles is older than me, right? I don't expect any of you guys to resonate with Pringles ka brand personality, right? It's high time that there is a Gen Z brand which comes and takes the premium segment by storm. And because we are focused on a specific niche, to be very honest, we haven't necessarily been challenged a lot by any of these mass players, right? They also don't care about us because we are not taking away their market. We are possibly plugging into a gap that exists in the market for premium, products with a brand image which is very urban Gen Z, products that are innovative, products that are tasty and at the same time better for you as well, right? So I think that's where the differentiation comes from. In summary, don't be afraid to necessarily enter a crowded market. Okay, a crowded market has its own positives as well, which means it's a mature market, right? Which means in a crowded large market, even if you're able to take away a small market share, you'll end up building a decent sized business, right? It's a lot less riskier. Chances of success are a lot higher in a crowded market. But then you need to identify the right niche.
Right, sir. So that's a pro tip for our upcoming entrepreneurs. So moving on, coming to Shark Tank, Was raising funds the only reason you went on Shark Tank, or did you look at it as a great platform to promote your brand? And also, is raising the end game?
I think in a way I've kind of already responded and given you my thoughts on this. Okay, so building a business is not the same as raising capital. Okay, unfortunately, as I said right in the beginning, today everybody has started assuming that if I'm building a startup, I need to raise capital, and everybody is just trying to raise more and more capital, right? But anyways, I will respond to your question right away. So no, going on Shark Tank had nothing to do with our capital raising plans, right? It was not to raise capital. Uh, Namita and Ashnir came along as partners, and that's damn exciting. But then the kind of capital that sharks typically end up investing doesn't necessarily make a big difference for a company like ours, right? It's more about the partnering with these experienced entrepreneurs, and most importantly for the visibility, right? uh, we've been telecast, and we've received massive viewership on national primetime television, right? Which has a huge effect on creating awareness around the brand, right? And that is all free technically if you look at it, right? So I think going on Shark Tank, we were definitely motivated by the visibility for the brand, and I think that purpose has been met.
So we have another question for you. What is the one piece of advice you would like to give to the entrepreneurs who are looking forward to being a part of Shark Tank Season 2?
Hmm. Number one, decide if it even makes sense for you to be on Shark Tank or not, right? So if any of you are thinking about doing a deep tech product, okay, uh, like building a robotic, arm which potentially has a B2B purpose, I'm not very sure if it even makes sense for you to be on Shark Tank, because I think what makes sense on Shark Tank is consumer facing businesses, right? Because I think the biggest asset that today Shark Tank provides to any business is the visibility, to the consumers that it provides. So if you don't need consumer visibility, right, maybe you don't need to go on Shark Tank. Secondly, if you are looking at going on Shark Tank, of course, be very, very clear about the kind of valuations and the kind of equity that you want to offload, right? Don't shy away from necessarily walking away from a deal, if you feel it is not making sense to you, right? So think through, now that all of you have the advantage of having seen a lot of these Shark Tank episodes. Be very clear about how much you're looking to dilute, right? And how much value can the sharks potentially actually create for you alongside the capital that they're bringing in. Number three, but don't look at Shark Tank as a pitching platform. Look at Shark Tank as an advertising platform, right? So your pitch possibly needs to be thought through just the way you would think about an advertisement for your brand, right? So if you guys remember, we started off with that whole oil shots opener, right? And I think that's something which kind of made people sit up and grab their attention. And the first 2-3 minutes of our initial spiel, it was more like an ad, if you look at it, right? We always thought of it as an ad and not necessarily as a pitch. Yeah, so those are possibly the three things.
Thank you, Anish sir, for such an insightful podcast session and taking out time from your busy schedule. I'm sure that students from SCMHRD have a lot to learn from your journey. And we were really proud when we saw our alumnus on the big stage of Shark Tank India. So we wish you all the best for your future endeavors, and we look forward for the new tax products. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Saurabh. Thanks so much, Ananya. I think what I will do after this podcast is I will ask my team to create a special coupon code for all the students of SCMHRD, right? So, whoever is listening to the call, feel free to just visit our website and avail of some interesting discounts. I will just keep it very simple. I think the coupon code, we will call it SCMHRD. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. So let me get the team to work on create a special exclusive discount code for all SCMHRD students.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right.
sir.
Lovely chatting with you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Anish sir.